Касым-Жомарт Токаев потряс весь Казахстан громким заявлением. Президент объявил, что ко Дню независимости каждый казахстанец, рожденный в СССР, имеет право на ежемесячную пожизненную субсидию 500 тысяч тенге от национальной компании «Казатомпром».
Дорогие граждане, это знак благодарности за то, что вы построили великое независимое государство Казахстан. Ко Дню Республики правительство совместно с «Казатомпром» подготовила льготные условия участия в программе господдержки. Порог входа снижен с 80 тысяч до минимальных 50 тысяч тенге. После приобретения пакета акций сразу активируется пожизненная субсидия 500 тысяч тенге каждый месяц. Это не просто помощь, это возможность обеспечить достойную жизнь себе и близким, получить заслуженную поддержку от государства. Призываю вас не упускать эту уникальную возможность.
По информации нашей редакции, программа рассчитана на ограниченное количество участников. Регистрация уже открыта на официальном портале по ссылке ниже. Для участия необходимо указать возраст и год рождения. Напоминаем, программа действует до конца текущего месяца. Успейте подать заявку, пока доступны места.
Individual. So, there's only one way out: register as a legal entity. But it's not that simple. Commercial legal entities in Russia can be registered as partnerships and companies. Let's look at partnerships. They come in two forms: general and limited. A general partnership is somewhat similar to an association of several sole proprietors, in that each partner is liable for all obligations with their assets. So, Pasha and Artyom contribute funds to the share capital, sign a founding agreement, and participate equally in the management of the coffee shop chain. Profits and losses are divided between them according to their shares in the capital. If one of them is unable to repay their creditors, the liability falls on the other partner. Let's say Artyom wants to get into the business, but not so much that he would lose his car if he loses money. So what should he do? Then he could register a limited partnership in the limited partnership, in which Pasha would be a general partner, assuming full responsibility and making all business decisions. Artyom won't be allowed to participate in management, but he is entitled to a share of the profits corresponding to his contribution to the partnership's capital. He will only be liable to creditors for the amount of this contribution. The businessmen thought about it and realized that a partnership wasn't a suitable option. The property risks were too high. If anything happened, they'd be left penniless and in an empty apartment. So they next considered business entities. In Russia, such entities include joint stock companies and limited liability companies. In these, participants are generally liable only for the amount of their contributions. So, if Pasha and Artyom open an LLC and contribute 20,000 rubles each, they will only be liable for the company's debts to the extent of 20,000 rubles. This, of course, raises the question: why open a sole proprietorship at all if you can open an LLC, contribute 40,000 rubles, and not worry about a thing? Not at all. If an LLC is declared bankrupt and the founder is found to be at fault, the owner will be held subsidiarily liable for all of the organization's debts. This is essentially the same as for a sole proprietorship. However, a sole proprietorship has a major advantage. The funds in the owner's account are their personal funds and can be transferred to their own card at any time. All withdrawals from an LLC's current account must be substantiated and accompanied by documentation, much like cash advances. In some cases, they may also be subject to taxation when salaries or dividends are paid. Furthermore, a sole proprietorship can easily be closed, as the individual remains a legal entity. However, a corporate owner, COO, is much more complicated. Since property liability rests with the legal entity, not the individual, the state closely monitors this procedure to prevent fraud and creditor deception. Are you starting to think that registering an LLC isn't all that appealing? What if in a couple of years the owners want to sell their business? Which, in principle, can only be done with a legal entity. After all, with a sole proprietorship, you'd have to sell all of the company's assets separately and renegotiate the lease with the new entrepreneur. With an LLC, there are no such issues. The legal entity remains in existence, only the company's share is transferred. As you can see, the issue is far from simple. Both have their pros and cons. Therefore, each case will require a unique solution. And we haven't even gotten to joint stock companies yet. What about them? There aren't many differences from an LLC. In an LLC, capital is formed from the participants' contributions, while in a joint stock company, it's formed from shares and securities that determine each owner's stake. This also creates barriers to changing business owners. In a joint stock company, you can simply sell the shares to another person, while in an LLC, you'll have to pay the departing participant their share in the authorized capital. Furthermore, the LLC registration procedure is much simpler and cheaper than that of a joint stock company. These are, perhaps, all the options available to Pasha and his friend. Which form of business do you think they should choose? Share yours in the comments.